On Christmas Eve 2003, a turkey woke up to its 1,000th morning. For 1,000 days, the farmer had arrived with food. For 1,000 days, the world had behaved exactly as the turkey expected. The data was overwhelming. The trend was clear. The next morning was Thanksgiving. The turkey did not see it coming. Neither did the experts who predicted the housing market in 2007. Neither did the strategists who modeled the pandemic in 2019. Nassim Taleb wrote an entire book about why. It is called The Black Swan, and its argument is uncomfortable. The events that shape history, finance, and our lives are not the ones we can model. They are the ones we cannot. These are the lessons of Nassim Taleb. Taleb is a former options trader who spent 2 decades profiting from events the market said could not happen. He watched professionals lose fortunes defending models that worked beautifully until, suddenly, they did not. He coined the term Black Swan for events with 3 properties. They are rare, they are extreme in their impact, and they are explained after the fact as if they had been obvious all along. The September 11th attacks, the rise of the internet, the 2008 financial crisis, the pandemic. Each was deemed nearly impossible the day before and inevitable the day after. Taleb's claim is that our entire intellectual apparatus, economics, forecasting, risk management, is built to model the ordinary, and the ordinary is not what matters. The Black Swan is not a book about predicting better. It is a book about accepting that you cannot and learning what to do anyway. Lesson 1. 2 worlds of randomness. Taleb begins by drawing a line through the world. On one side lies what he calls Mediocristan. On the other, Extremistan. In Mediocristan, no single observation can change the average. Consider human height. Put 1,000 people in a stadium. Add the tallest person who has ever lived. The average barely moves. Mediocristan is the world of bell curves, of measured things, of small variations around a comfortable middle. Extremistan is different. In Extremistan, one observation can dominate everything. Put 1,000 people in that same stadium, add 1 billionaire. The average wealth has not shifted slightly. It has been redrawn entirely. Book sales live in Extremistan. Stock returns live in Extremistan. Pandemic death tolls live in Extremistan. So do wars, viral videos, technology revolutions, and the wealth of nations. The error, Taleb argues, is not that we use statistics. The error is that we use Mediocristan statistics to model an Extremistan world. We measure the height of waves while ignoring that one tsunami will define the coastline. Lesson 2. The turkey problem. Return to the turkey. Every day of its life, the evidence accumulated that the farmer was a friend. The confidence interval narrowed. The data improved. By day 999, the turkey was more certain than ever. This is the problem of induction. We assume that because something has happened before, it will happen again. We treat the past as a contract with the future. But the past contains only the events that did not destroy the system observing it. Survivors overfit. The turkey's confidence was highest precisely when the risk was highest. Taleb's warning is severe. The longer a fragile system has run without incident, the more dangerous it has become. Stability is not safety. Stability is the accumulation of pressure behind a wall you have stopped inspecting. Lesson 3. The narrative fallacy. After every black swan, something curious happens. The experts explain it. They construct a story. They identify the warning signs. They show how, in hindsight, the rupture was visible. Books are written. Documentaries are filmed. The unpredictable becomes retroactively predictable. Consider September 11th. In the weeks after the attacks, a coherent narrative formed almost overnight. The intelligence briefings that had mentioned bin Laden, the flight schools that had taken unusual students, The memo, titled, in retrospect chillingly, Bin Laden determined to strike in U.S. A line connecting the dots appeared on cable news within days, and by the following year, entire books had been written treating the attacks as a foreseeable failure of imagination. But the dots were not connected before September 11th. They sat among 10,000 other dots, competing threats, false alarms, contradictory signals, intelligence noise. The line was drawn afterward, with the destination already known. Of course, it looks like a line when you start at the answer. Taleb calls this the narrative fallacy. The human mind cannot tolerate randomness. It demands a story. So we manufacture one, weaving causes and effects into a tidy line, and we forget that the line was drawn after the fact. The consequence is that we never learn the right lesson. We learn that crashes happen because of subprime mortgages, or central bank policy, or shadow banking. These are the explanations of the last crash. The next one will arrive through a door we have not yet noticed, and afterward, the experts will explain that one too. Hindsight is not foresight. It is a flattering illusion that costs us every cycle, the humility we needed to survive. Lesson 4. Silent evidence. There is a story Taleb returns to. Drowned worshippers. Cicero tells of a man shown a painting of sailors who prayed and survived a shipwreck. Proof, the believer says, of the power of prayer. Cicero asks, where are the portraits of those who prayed and drowned? The drowned do not paint. They do not write memoirs. They do not appear on magazine covers explaining their methods. We see only the survivors, and from the survivors we draw conclusions about the world. This is silent evidence, and it distorts almost every judgment we make. We study successful founders and miss the graveyard of identical founders who did everything the same way and failed. We study winning funds and miss the funds that ran the same strategy into ruin. The cemetery is always larger than the parade, but the parade is the only thing we are shown. To think clearly about risk, Taleb argues, you must learn to see the absences, the companies that should exist and don't, the trades that should have worked and didn't, the histories that almost happened. Lesson 5. The Barbell Strategy. If you cannot predict, what do you do? Taleb's answer is structural, not predictive. He calls it the barbell. The principle is to abandon the middle entirely. Place the great majority of your capital, he suggests something like 80 to 90%, in the most boring, the most cautious, the most defensive position you can find. Treasury bills, cash, things that cannot blow up. Place the remainder in positions with capped downside and uncapped upside. Small, asymmetric bets, things that lose a little if they fail and gain enormously if they succeed. Hold nothing in the middle. The middle is where moderate risk lives, and moderate risk is the territory of black swans. It looks safe, and it is not. The barbell is not only for portfolios. It applies to careers, to relationships, to how a company allocates its attention. Be radically conservative with what you cannot afford to lose. Be radically adventurous with what you can. Eliminate the comfortable middle that looks like prudence and behaves like fragility. Taleb's critics are many, and some of their objections are fair. He is abrasive. He repeats himself. He attacks academics with a relish that sometimes obscures his argument. But the argument survives the attacks. In the 2 decades since The Black Swan was published, every major financial and geopolitical rupture has confirmed its core claim. The models did not see them. The narratives explained them afterward. The survivors took the credit. The graveyards stayed silent. What makes the book endure is not the prediction that bad things will happen. Everyone says that. What endures is the diagnosis of why we keep being surprised, and the discipline of acting as though we will be surprised again. The deeper move in Taleb's thinking is the shift from prediction to structure. You cannot know what is coming. You can know what would ruin you, and you can refuse to stand near it. you can build a life, a portfolio, a company that gains from the disorder it cannot avoid. Or, at minimum, one that does not break. The lesson that compounds from this book is not a forecast. It is a posture. You will be surprised. The model will fail. The expert will be wrong. The 1000th day will not look like the 999th. Plan accordingly. Reduce your exposure to the comfortable middle. Stay humble about what you can know. Stay paranoid about what you cannot. And remember, always, that the parade is not the world. The cemetery is part of it too. That was The Ink and Equity. If a lesson here landed, the question worth sitting with is this. Where in your life are you the turkey on day 999? Leave your answer in the comments. Subscribe. We break down one great book every week. The foundational ones on money, business, and decision-making. The lessons that compound. Until then, find what would ruin you and refuse to stand near it.